Thank you for your second session, Deepak, today.
Yeah, no problem. So yesterday we captured a page object model, which was a main component which we captured. So today we are going to capture authentication and then test fixers. So test fixers are the new concept which we mostly use for writing our test cases when we are have a very big test automation. Then we always use a test fixers to implement lot of different criterias. Then we'll go through a test configuration. We'll go to different configurations available in a playwright.config.ts. We try to have an emulation example, and then we'll have a parallel test example. So authentic means in most of the web applications, so we will be having authentication or a login screen where you will be having a username or an email as a one field, and then password will be a second field, and there will be a submit button. That can be a complete web page, or that can be a dialog also, that can be a model window also, but there will be a complete login screen. Okay. So there are two ways, means whenever we log in, either we create a client token to secure or to save the complete authentication state or a context of a particular user, or we use a server cookie to save that complete information on the server side as a cookie. Okay. So both, whether you're using a client token or a server cookie in your web application, that will be stored in Playwright as a state storage.json file. So you can have a client token, or you can have a server cookie, or you can have a both in a state storage.json file. Okay. And then as a secure practice, you can have your password either in a key vault, or you will be using a certificate for auth also. So all those scenarios can be very easily automated, whether you want to authenticate using a certificates. So you can automate those scenarios also, or if you want to use a password and that password is again stored in some key vault, you can very easily get that password from a key vault using a code, and then you can use that also. So I have automated all these different type of scenarios, whether we are using a key vault or a certificate or some other way of getting a passwords through our variables. And ultimately, after a login means we'll be having a client token and server cookie, which will be storing in a state storage.json file. Okay. So if you want to create a state storage.json file, there are different ways you can use for a state storage. One is a browser.new context, and then you can have a storage state, and you can give a path of a particular state file where you want to store it. So if you're using browser.launch, and then you can use a browser.new context over there, and then you can give a storage state over there. Or if you are using a page, then directly you can have a page.context and then storage state, and then you can give a path for a particular storage file. Okay, so these are two different ways for creating a storage state, and then how to use it. You can have a test.use, and then the same way storage state, and then you can give a path. Okay, so this can be your cookies or tokens like this, or this can be like this also. So it's up to the way you want to use it. Okay. And then you can again, means if you want to use across your test run, then you can use a playwright.config.ts file also. And over there, you can give a storage state in a use, and then you can give a particular path of a state storage file. So one way you can use a test.use, second way is using a use in the playwright.config.ts file. Okay. So you will be having a authentication test case, and then you want to run the test case. Okay. So yesterday we ran means a login using the page object model, also login without a page object model, right? So today means we'll use other concept. So this is a same test case. It's a login, get test by email input, password input, and then submit, right? This is the same test case which we have already earlier. The only thing we are just storing a cookie. which is our state storage.json, right? And if you see here, means I'm not using a test. So I have used test and setup. So instead of using a test, I'm using a setup over there. So you can change this particular test and setup to base also, and you can use base over here. You can use any keyword like Deepak, and you can use Deepak also over here. Okay. So it's up to you, means the way you want to use your test function, you can use as base, and then you can use that particular test function. Okay. Here I'm saving this file as a .setup.ts file. Instead of using a .test.ts file, I'm using a .setup.ts. And there is a reason means why I'm using a .setup.ts file. So in a playwright.config.ts file, you can create a different projects. In the project, you can tell, okay, test match. If there is a setup file, that will act as my setup class. Okay. In that case, before running any test case, it will run this particular scenario, and it will make sure that each and every test case is authenticated before running it. So you can define a different projects. You can run all the projects or a single project. Okay. If you have a project, if you want to run a particular project, then you have to use a minus project equal to, then you can give a project name. Okay. We were saving a auth state, right? So, so there will be a .playwright folder, .auth. In the auth, we have these two different cookie files. Okay. So there is no cookies, so it's not using a cookies, so there is no cookies data. Okay, it's only adding the origins. There is no server token also, so it's not storing any token. So it's a sort of empty files. Okay. So it's using a token, so it's defined a token only for in a local storage. The same file will be used to authenticate. If you want to authenticate any test case, you can use that particular file. For example, if this is a sample.test, you can use test.use. And then you can give particular path. Okay. So any question related to authentication, how you can use authentication? So yesterday means there was another thing which we discussed, means we can have a global setup, right? If you don't want to use this auth setup like this, then the same test case you can run in a globals also. So where is globals folder? So over here you can define your complete auth file. Okay. 1 second. I created a sample code somewhere. Even if it's not there, we can just copy. Here it is.
Hey, Deepak, when we need to use setup like authentication setup when you have any key vault without having, if you don't have a
No,
keyword,
keyword
we
I
need to
just gave
use.
an example means if you want to store password, you can store in a password in a keyword in a secure way. So that's
Okay.
independent. Okay.
Okay.
So if you want to run a test case, I will give you example means why we require this. You can have a one step called login, okay,
Mm-hmm.
which will create your storage state, right?
Mm-hmm.
.json. And then you have lot of test cases, all those tests, right? So you want to, all these tests are depending on means all the tests are prerequisite means you have to log into a particular system before you can run test cases.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, there are different way you can pre-log in before running a test cases.
Okay.
Okay. So what I can do, I can log in using a project, which I shown you, right now.
Mm-hmm.
I will run a login step. So that particular project will be run before any other project. If you remember yesterday, I was showing you where is global setup. You can create a project and then you can give a dependency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a dependency, not tear down for this. Okay, there will be dependency on a uh, cleanup also. So we'll create these projects, for example. So you can tell there will be a tear down, okay? But in a setup, you can have this particular setup. This will be depending on this one. So you can define a dependency in that case. Setup project will run always before running any other projects. Okay, that's a one way by using global setups. Secondly, means we can again means instead of using a global setup and all those things, we can define everything in a globals. Globals will be executed every time before running anything. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not using any of these projects. Okay, so I will remove this one. No, I can set up everything in a global set. In this case, it will create a state storage.json and everything, right? Before running a test cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a state storage for .json, right? We can give a path or let's give it like this only. And then you can go to a playwright.config.ts file. You can tell every test has to use a state storage file. So you can go to use and you can give this, okay? So in that case, every test case will be already having a state storage file. So it will use this one, each and every test case. So this is the best way. Have a login step in a globals, and then you can have a storage state in a playwright.config.ts file. Then no need to write down test.use in each and every test case.
Oh, okay. So, so where we s- call this at the beginning, like each and every, like before
No need
all.
to tell anywhere means now is your defined global will be executed every time because it's in your playwright.config.ts even storage state you have given over there, so it will always have that state storage available to all the test cases.
So we don't
No
need to
need to
mention
do
anymore.
anything now.
Oh, gotcha.
Now we'll simply run the test cases. We are not doing anything.
Yeah.
Setup started.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing a login. So it's in a headless mode. That's why it's running like that. should not be that much slow. Better we make it. Yeah. So it's ran, right? So it failed over here because that username, those variables are not correct. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But this will work like this.
Mhm.
So this will work if I will copy instead of yaml.com, if I will copy actual our test case, which we have in auth.setup.ts. If we give this thing, then it will work properly. And this should be our, I have to copy that URL in credentials or constants. See, it ran that login and now it's running all the test cases. Okay. So we have a lot of test cases. It will take a lot of time. But you got the idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
So there will be a state storage file also in the root. See over here, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So this is a second way means you can authenticate. There's a third way also you can have a build pipeline. Now build pipeline you have a separate task for a login and then separate task for a playwright test cases. Okay. So there are different way you can have a log authenticating before running a test cases. Now coming to a test fixer, this is a very big component which we have. So test fixers are used to establish a proper environment before running any test case. So if you need anything specific for running a particular test case, any environment or any component, you can create test fixes for those. Okay. And these test fixes are isolated between a test cases, which means that way means we are opening a tab. If we have opening a two tab, all those will be isolated from each other. Okay. So we'll come to that slide later on. So we are using a page everywhere, right? So in a curly bracket, we are giving this particular page, right?
Yes.
So this page is nothing but it's a built-in test fixer available to you. So you can use page in your test function. Test is a function, before it is a function. In that you're giving this particular, in a curly bracket, you're giving a particular page. Page is a inbuilt fixer. So you can use page everywhere. Okay. The same way, if you remember, I explained means we have a three major tenants in a Playwright: browser, browser context, and page, right? So all these three are inbuilt predefined fixes: page, context, which is providing a browser context, and then browser. So you have a page available, you can use page, you can have a context, you have a browser, and then you can have a browser name also. And the last one is a request. Why we require request? Request is used if you're running a API test cases, okay? So in that case, means we are not using a page, we are using a request and response object. So request will be available over there. So
So,
page, context, browser, browser name, and request. So how you can use that also. So go to any test case. This is a test case, right? So you can have a browser also available over here, right?
mm,
You can have a context also available over here. So you can use browser context within a test case over here. Context.clear cookies, right? Context, then you have storage state also, right?
Mhm.
So you can use context over here. You can have a browser over here. Then we use somewhere browser name also, right? Where we were telling me, see this browser name. This browser name is you are providing over here, right? So this
Okay.
is again a built-in fixer. The same browser name you can use over here also. Okay, so these are built-in fixers which you can use. Now, how fixers work means you have a fixer, that fixer will be passed to a test code, and then test code will execute that particular fixer, and it will return came back to a fixer page and then to a test runner. So test runner will be having a setup and tear down, okay? And after that, it will call a particular fixer, and that fixer will be passed to a test code, and test code will execute that particular test using the fixers, and then it will give you resource back. Okay. So we'll come to this slide later on. Let's use fixers first. I have a simple to-do page. We have a read-only, right?
Mhm.
Then I have all the locators. I declared all the locators. And this is a Playwright website, means where you can add items, you can remove items. So I have created the add to do, remove to do all those functions. Okay. So without fixer test case, I'm declaring a page. Okay. So this should be cost actually. Okay. Because we are changing over here, either you can declare over here or you can have cost over here. Okay. Before each, I'm creating a page. I'm going to a particular page and I'm adding two items. After each, I'm removing those items, all items. And in the test case, I'm adding again items and removing item, right? So we'll run this particular test case. This is simple test case which we have done yesterday, right? Page object model. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So we were having a two test case, add an item and delete an item, right? Before each, there was two items already there because in the before each, we already added that particular. So this test case passed, right? Now how we can use a fixer? So fixer first means first requirement is you have to extend that particular test class. So you're creating a new test object. So original test, we are calling it base class. And that base class we are extending and we are creating a new fixer over here. In the curly brackets, we are providing fixers, right? Page, browser, context. The same way now we are telling we can pass a to-do page also in the curly brackets. Okay. And then I'm creating the typical to-do page and I'm running a small test case. Now, if you see in this particular test case, I can use a other than page, I can use a to-do page also, right? Now that to-do page is available as a part of a fixer. In this test, this was a before each, right? So that's why we added in this particular constructor. Otherwise, you can remove this particular constructor also. we only need this much part. Okay, you have a to-do page and you want to use that particular to-do page. That's it. That's a fixer. But before each I want to use, so I'm adding few more lines of code. In this case, now to-do page is already available to you. No need to declare a to-do page anywhere. That's already part of a fixer, so no need to declare that, and you can use it directly. So that's a benefit of a fixer. You can create a login page also over here, and then you can have a username and password also passed over there. So it's running the same test case, right? Any question related to fixers? What are the fixers? Fine, we'll again do little more in our fixers. Yesterday I was telling me we can use the annotations to tell the owner of a test case, right? If you want to assign the owner to a test case, you can use the annotations over there. So I will not use annotations. Let's do one more example. So again, this is a test.base, and I am creating this particular page object. This is up to me whether I want to give out or not. And I'm using that page. This is the same way we used that particular previous example, right? Now this page will always navigate to this base URL, whatever you're passing over here. The same way you can give a storage state also, and then you can use that particular storage state. So I created a default storage state over here, and you can pass a storage state also. Then how you can use it? Simply test.use, you can give your base URL. And in the test, it will always go to that particular base URL. Okay. And then you can also test.use. Storage state is already available because you are using used already in our override, so it's already using that particular storage state. So no need to give. It will always have that particular storage state available to a test case. That's other way of over using a fixers to have a storage state available to your test cases. This is clear. Then I will go to little more complex example for us fixers. Any questions related to our fixers? So you can configure browser, you can give a browser name and headless, right? But in my case, means I want to run a test case against this Power Apps environment. Power Apps environment is having a means you have to tell tenant environment and geography. My environment will be in a different geographies. A particular website will be available in the US. Means I have a similar website running in a different geographies, and different versions of a source code is running the same website in a different geographies. It will be available in the US, it will be available in the India, Asia, different geographies. Okay. And then I have a different tenants and environments also. So that will be confusing to you, but I will show how it's implemented. See, I am creating a base options. This is a test edge base. Here I'm telling I have a owner, tenants, environment, geography, and base URL. Here, if you see, I'm using all those, right? Arrays. In a test dot before each, I am getting a tenant from a project. In a project, in a method, I can define a tenant environment geography. And then I'm also using a set owner. Again, I'm using annotations, but I'm using a simple set owner. So why I'm using it, which means I can tell, okay, I want to run a particular test case for these tenants only. Means I want to run a test case for a Power Apps app also. I want to use for a Power BI also. This will be for a Power BI also. This test case should run the Power BI also. This will run in some other website also. This will run in a different environment, test, prod, pre-prod, like that. Okay. And then it will run in a multiple geographies also. So I can run that particular test case in a multiple environments, multiple tenants, okay, and honor. So this test can run in different environments, different geographies, and different test environments, okay. So what I can do in a playwright.config.ts file, I can create a project. Over here, I can give tenant, which particular tenant I want to run. It should run only for a Power Apps. It should run only in a particular environment, US. So that way I can filter my test cases by using a projects, right? So here I'm using my own fixers and I'm giving those fixers over here in the use and you can use it. So this is a little complex example, but this is the way means like if I have a 14,000 test cases, I can tell, okay, I want to run a test case. I can filter those test cases from projects and I can run a particular type of a test cases only. One more thing you can do over here. You can okay tell, okay, this particular test case will, I can have a pipeline over here. Pipelines. Okay. And in this test case, I can tell this will run in my PR pipeline. This can run in my nightly pipeline. You can have a different build pipelines, so it will accordingly it will run in different pipelines. Okay. So this way you can use fixers to filter test cases also. So you have to add your own logic. I have to add a lot of big. So I have defined all these tenants and environment geographies over here. So you and that logic I have defined in a fixer means I'm filtering over here. So it will run test cases only if tenants include this particular current environment and geography. Otherwise, it will skip. This is my custom logic if you see over here. I'm filtering test cases using the fixers. Secondly, I'm defining a honor for a test case by using a annotations plus fixer. Right? So any questions related to a fixers?
Hey Deepak, can you please show us how we are defining fixture?
Defining fixer is a very simple way, means you require a test as base, and then that particular base you will extend, and you're getting a new test function. And whatever fixer you want, this is a simple code you have to add. If you've seen previously one also, I used test.base extend. I created my own fixer. This to-do page you can have a separate as a base option over here, or you can have directly over here, and then you have to use that particular name. That's it. And when you want to use it, now you are using a test object from that particular function only. You are using this particular test function. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Now coming to our test configurations. So we have a test configuration called forbid only. In that case, you can tell if an error occurs, if a test is marked as test.only, then you will forbid that one in a CI pipeline. You can give a fully parallel also if you want to run all the test suites now, not a in the test suite you can tell means test.describe.parallel, right? But if you have multiple test files and you want to run them in a parallel, then there's a fully parallel you can use over there. You can define a project which I have already shown. Reporter we have already captured. Retries means if a test case fails, you want to rerun that test case. So you can give a retries. You can give a number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then test directive means you want to tell where your test files will be. There's a test directive in test mesh too. Dot use, we already use web servers. We have already shown workers means it will run those many CPU processes. So we'll capture workers and this fully parallel in our next example. So you can give output directly. You can give a global timeout also. If you want, by default, it's a 60 seconds. You can make it a 30 seconds. So you can give a global timeout also. There are multiple timeouts you can use. Other than simple timeout, we have other timeouts also available in our playwright.config.ts. I don't know when. So these are the retries we can use. Okay. We have used timeouts or not. That's fine. So you can give this particular timeout. Then there is a, I have to pick up from my projects. Give me 1 second. So we have 2 more timeouts. These 2 will be available in use. So action timeout means if you want to double click, fill, and you want to do any action, in that case, this particular timeout will be used. Navigation timeout means you want to navigate from a one page to other page. This particular navigation timeout will be used, and this will be overall timeout for a particular test case. Okay. And if you expect in the expect also, you can give a timeout. So this way you can give a timeout for expect also if you're using expect. So these are different timeouts available in a playwright.config.ts. Then if you're using a visual comparison testing, so visual comparison testing means you already have a one screenshot and you want to compare the look and feel of a screenshot. You want to compare with the particular JPG or a PNG image where you already have a screenshot of a web page and you want to compare each and every component, pixel, color, everything. So you can use a visual comparison, and in that case, you can have a to have screenshot and to match snapshot. In that case, you can give a pixels ratios, the maximum pixel you want for a particular screenshot or a snapshot. So emulation is used if we are not supporting a mobile device testing in a Playwright, but we have emulation, which means you can emulate.
Hey Deepak, just a question for the previous slide. So For the validating the UA comparison. Like for example, in my project, I have mock. Mock is designed by some UX team, right? And my developers, I believe, design web page. So can we compare with the mock with the web page? Is it similar or not?
Yeah,
Will
that's a purpose of this testing means. So what we do means instead of using a mock, first time we create a snapshot which is working fine. You have a website, we'll run that website and we'll have a snapshot. So we'll use to have screenshot. Okay. And then that particular screenshot will always save in a folder. And second time we use it to match snapshot. So second time will match with the previous taken snapshot. Okay.
so okay.
And then if you don't want to take a screenshot in a first test run, in that case you can use a mocks also. So I'm
Okay.
giving you a practical way means instead of a means mock will be not as actual as the web page. Okay. So first time when we develop a website, it's working fine. So we take a screenshot of a properly working website UI.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever we'll run a test case, we match with that particular properly taken snapshot. Mock
Oh,
can be in a Figma, mock can be in some other tool, right?
yeah, Figma. Yeah, you're right.
But here means we are matching actual screenshots.
Yeah.
So when you develop, you make sure that that particular website is working properly, all the UI is working properly, right? So first time you can write a simple test code to copy that particular to have that particular screenshot taken. After that, whenever you will run a build pipeline, it will use to match snapshot.
Oh, yeah. That I understand, but we generally we not recommended to Figma with the website, right?
No. So see, Figma is a separate tool, and means Playwright is not providing support matching a Figma or mocking or a wireframes with the actual. That is, here we are
Yeah,
comparing a pixel to pixel.
yeah, got you. Thank you.
So that's why means I given means we have to provide a proper pixel ratios also. How much difference you will allow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's also important for accessibility testing also, where you're comparing the colors also, fonts also, zoom also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Coming to emulation means I was explaining means we are not providing device testing, but we provide emulation. What do you mean by emulation? I will explain. For example, this is your website, right? LinkedIn. And when you open inspect, you can go to this device emulation, right?
Yeah.
In the device emulation, when you enable, then you can give dimensions also, right? This is a port size, width and height, right?
Yes.
You can tell me whether it will be responsive or not, and then you can give a device type also, right? Based on the device type, this size will change, and you can give a viewport size, right?
Mm-hmm.
In emulation, you can again means zoom in, zoom out also to test that. So all these things you can do in a Playwright. So you can tell a user agent, which means you want to use which particular browser. You can give a screen size viewport, whether you want to touch or not. You can give a geolocation also, which means longitude and latitude of a particular location where you want to run, and you can give a permissions to a particular location only. Also, you can give a time zone also, that time zone you want to do a testing. So you can give all those things. So you can use directly for a complete end-to-end test case, or you can have a single project where you can give all those configurations also. Okay. So it's up to you, miss, whether you want to use in all the projects or you want to configure only for a particular project. So instead of playwright.config.ts changes, we have make a lot of changes here. I have to undo. We'll go to emulate test. So here I'm going to a page, I'm defining a viewport over here. Page.viewport, and you can run that particular viewport over here. Okay. Here you can also tell a device also which device you want to use. So we'll check means the user agent, and we'll check means whether it's the same viewport or not. I think this will fail. I think I viewport. It should open in a particular size only. So we have not given a device. Give me 1 second. There's some problem in the test case. We have to give a particular size also.
Deepak, the emulation test is basically to test the UA part, not the functionality in the UA.
Yes, that's what emulation means.
Okay.
So we have given, sorry, we have given here test.use. Otherwise, I was going to add this particular code. So we already given a device type to be iPhone 12. So it should use that particular small size when it will run a test case. See, it was having that small mobile size, if you have checked, right? So that's why you're giving a particular device type to emulate to an iPhone 12 only. You can give a geolocations also. You can give any other for a device also. You can in a particular device also you can give a different configurations also. Okay. Parallel test. So parallel test means I told you means you can run a parallel test if you have a fully parallel equal to true, right? Then I explain you means you can give a test.describe dot parallel, right? Or you can give a test.describe dot configure and then mode equal to parallel if you want to run a test parallel. So fully parallel true in a test.describe you can give, or in a project you can give a fully parallel equal to true. Okay, that's a one thing.
Can you
Now,
repeat again?
if you want to run a test case parallelly, there are 3 different ways to tell. This is one way, means you can have a okay, or you can have a dot parallel. In this case, all the tests will be running parallelly. Okay, but in a particular test suite only, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm removing this one right now. But now I have 2 different files. In the test folder, I have 2 different files, right? So I want to run all the test cases in both the files to be parallel. In that case, I can have a fully parallel over here. Okay. But it will run a fully parallel, but you have a single thread, right? Now you are running a single thread in a CPU. If you have to run parallel, you require that many threads also, right? So in that case, we can give a workers. So you can tell how many workers you want to run. So we are running a 4 workers. So this means it will in a 4 batches, it will run all those tasks in a parallel. So it will divide all the tasks into a 4 batches, and it will run those tasks in all these 4 different batches. Okay.
What is environment.ca stands for there?
This is a process environment. So if you want to set up any environment variable, you can set up these environment variables. So this is a simple type script, process.environment.
Okay.
Okay. So this is means if I am running in a CI pipeline, so I have given means a CI. If I'm running in a CI pipeline, then only use a 1, other use a 4. If I'm running the CI pipeline, then it should if fail, it should try 2 times, otherwise 0, locally 0. Okay. Eleven tests is running in the 4 processes. If you see 4 test cases will be running together. It's picking up in the batches of 4 and 4.
Yeah.
Right? It was very fast, right? If we remove that, fully parallel equal to true. It's running 1 by 1 now. Are you checking that?
Yes. But in the first line, it is saying 2 workers are running. Like default, it takes us 2.
It's up to it. By default means it's taking those 2 workers.
Okay.
Because we have given here. So you can make it 1 also, but it will run 1 by 1 sequentially.
Okay.
Okay. So that's clear to you.
Yeah, makes sense.
So how you can run test parallelly in a build pipeline, if you actually have a build pipeline for this particular YAML file. So in that case, we use a sharding. Okay. So there's a concept called sharding. You can use that sharding to run the test cases parallelly. So in that case, you have in a job, you have to define a strategy in a matrix, and then you have to give all those shards 1 by 4. 4 will be max. So first block, second block, third block, and fourth block. Okay. In that case, it will run all those test cases in 4 workers, and it will generate 4 different jobs also. So let me open this particular repo. So I have a particular pipeline already running over here. So if you see, based on that matrix, it started 4 different jobs. And each job will be running a different type of a test cases. It's running a from test file 1, it's running a 1, 2, 3, right?
Yes.
If you go to this one, it's running a from that 4, 5, 6. It pick up a 7th last test case from a first file, and then 2 test cases from a second test file. From third last test file and last 2 test cases. So sharding is other way, means you can split your test case in a build pipelines. This was example means I have given in a GitHub. If you want area.net, I will show you in my actual project how I do a sharding. So here I'm running and I'm giving a shard over here, right? So in a command, you can give a shard and it will run accordingly. So it will run in that number of files. So this is a audio pipeline. I shown you a GitHub code also. So any questions? Means you can use a parallel testing by using in a test suite also, in a complete test run also, or you can run parallel test in a pipeline also.
Can you show me the configuration once for the pipeline, like the CI/CD pipeline configuration, how we
You have
have
to
to
only
do?
add this thing.
Okay, the strategy, and we need to add the strategy.
And then you have to use minus shard over here.
Okay, these are the two things, so I have to do.
Only
Okay,
this thing and then this thing. That's it.
okay.
Yeah, so that's all for today's session. Any other questions?
Hi, Deepak. Thanks for the session.
So I
So,
tried to capture all the practical problems we face during a playwright automation and the best practice which we should use while writing a test cases. Okay, so we almost covered all the topics in a playwright. Now is how you can generate a test case using a AI. That's a separate topic where we can have a separate sessions where you can use a code gen, and along with code gen you can use a GitHub Copilot. That's a one way using a Gen AI. Second way can be a Playwright MCP. Okay, and then I shown you means we can use a AI to generate a auto fix for a failing test cases in a reporter. So there are different ways you can use a generative AI to generate test cases, to run test cases, to fix test cases. So we will have separate sessions on a Gen AI.
Oh, do we have further sessions about this one, MCP and GenAI?
Means we have not covered MCP.
Yeah, you haven't covered, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think you mentioned that even behavioral driven we can use MCP, right?
Yeah. See, I'm using MCP a lot. So I can show you in the same project which I was showing you. Okay, close it. See, I cannot disclose my internal project, so means I will generate something for you for a Playwright MCP. So any other questions?
so do we have further session about this MCP, or
Yes, we'll
how
have
we
it.
are going to?
Definitely, we'll be having in the future also after 1 week.
How is it? Okay, thank you.
Fine then. Thank you.
one second. Can we get one, can I request everybody to turn on your cameras? I'll just take one picture. And, I really appreciate everybody to join these sessions. I hope you learned something. And first of all, thank you so much, Deepak,
Thank you.
for teaching us this. Let me stop the recording first.